The Sinquefield Cup is now such a fixture on the worldwide calendar, the chess calendar. But the very first edition, the 2013 Sinquefield Cup, was just 6 years ago. Tell us a little bit, Yasser, about your memories of this birth.
Well, it's amazing when you think about the tournament itself happening. It was a very, very real chance it wasn't going to happen at all. Okay, the way it came about is, Rex wakes up one day and he's got this inspiration. I really want to have a great tournament, an elite tournament, a Piatigorsky-like tournament here in St. Louis. And he goes to Joy and he says, I want this great tournament, but I want Vichy Anand, the world champion, to play. It's got to have the world champion. Okay.
Well, of course, Rex is a huge fan of Vichy Anand.
Absolutely. The next problem was that what time frame, because the imagination was to have 10 players or 12 players. And we needed this calendar, and it was impossible. There was just no dates that would accommodate a very long event. And Sunil Weermentry, the stepfather of Hikaru, really came to our rescue here, said, look, I have a really good relationship with these players. Let me see if I can do anything. Well, boom, the world champion, Vichy said, can't do it. I've got my training.
For Magnus Carlsen, his world championship match later that year.
Exactly. And so we thought, okay, if we lose Vichy, well, we're not going to get Magnus either. But Sunil came up with a really great idea. He said, well, let me get Levon Aronian, the number 2 player in the world, under contract, and that might be really
enticing.
To bring Magnus into the fold. So Levon said, that he couldn't do a 12-player tournament, couldn't do this, but he could do a quadrangular of 4 players, 6-round event. He said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. And then the business manager of Magnus says, okay, he can do it. And then Rex says, okay, if we can get Magnus, we're going to have this quadrangular. It's really, really cool. And then we can finesse the dates and everything like this. And he says,
Nakamura, of course, also playing as well as Gadakomsky.
Right.
So that we rounded out our field of 4 for the very first year.
Exactly. We had the 2 highest rated players in the United States, Hikaru, and then, of course, the old lion, Gadakomsky, returning to the fold, you see. And there's going to be a double round robin. Now, the next problem was Rex said, okay, look, everybody, Tony, Joy, myself, you guys name the baby, but it's got to have St. Louis. I don't care what you call it, it's got to have St. Louis in the title. Right. So off he goes. So then we start thinking about, and I like the St. Louis Grandmasters, kind of a takeoff on the U.S. Masters golf tournament. St. Louis Grandmasters.
Or the St. Louis International was another idea that came across. But then here came Dr. Jeannie Sinquefield, who had this incredible idea. Why don't we call it the Sinquefield Cup?
Because there was the Piatigorsky going on at the World Chess Hall of Fame. There was an exhibition.
Right.
So it was just this beautiful, it was just sort of like this handover. And then we came up with the Sinquefield Cup. Rex came back and said, well, what did you guys come up with? We told him. He goes, don't I get a vote? You go, yeah, it's 3-1. Next item on the agenda. So then the tournament's all underway and it all gets started. And it was great, seriously.
Well,
Hikaru shoots out to the lead.
That's
He's
right.
like 2.5 out of 3, halfway point. And then he comes, he's got his game against
Levon.
Yeah, Levon. That was the turnaround game right there.
Yeah, Levon managed to defeat Hikaru, and that really blew the tournament wide open.
Right.
I mean, wide open as it can get with only 4 players, including Gadakomsky, who was not doing particularly well in this event. I mean, he was the lowest rated player.
He was the lowest rated player, but he was really competitive in the games. He was just very, very unlucky. You recall that for that event too, Hikaru comes to the game with the reflective sunglasses. Okay. And he wears them to his board against Magnus because Magnus had adopted the guy. Magnus was like 10-0 up and with just draws. Poor Hikaru never beaten Magnus.
Including some really horrible games. With these sunglasses, he manages to hold Magnus quite handily. In fact, he had the better end of some of these draws.
Precisely so. And then it comes down to this incredible final game where Magnus has righted the ship. He's in the lead, but he's up against Levon, who's having this great comeback. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And Levon gets an advantage with the black pieces. And if Levon can win, and if Hikaru can win, there'll be a tie break and this and that. Or if Levon can draw and then Hikaru can win, there's going to be another kind of tie break, and all of these things. And then, Magnus digs in really deep, and he turns the game around, and Levon offers Magnus a draw.
It was an incredible moment because a draw at that point would have clinched the title for Magnus Carlsen.
Precisely.
And he said, heck no.
Let's play. Well, Maurice and I were just electrified. I still feel that magic moment because for grandmasters, your whole attitude when you go into a tournament is, I want to win it. That's what I'm here for. I just want to win the U.S. championship. I want to win the world championship. No. Magnus came to this tournament. It was like, I want to play, I want to win, and I want to dominate.
Yeah, and
I'm here to play.
And looking at it, it makes sense in retrospect, as Magnus, of course, earning the highest rating in history. Don't get the highest rating in history by just saying, hey, I'll just draw this game so that it clinches me the tournament.
Right.
And I think that for me, the most memorable thing of the event, of course, that draw was, but also I just think the precedent of St. Louis becoming a part of history
exactly
was so prominent with this event because it was the last classical event that Magnus Carlsen played before he became the world champion. And so it always kind of strikes me that it was this watermark, like before Magnus and after Magnus, and we got the very last event of the before Magnus period.
Indeed. And to that point that you're just mentioning, what was really historic and fun was that the FIDE had announced that Chennai, the home city of Viswanathan Anand, was going to be the organizer. Now, Magnus had to decide whether he was going to accept the contract and sign the contract and agree to play in the tournament. And then there's this historical moment of Magnus inviting the press as he signs the contract here in St. Louis for the World Chess Championship. So when you think about the birth of the tournament itself, and then the idea that it was going to be this elite tournament, and it's just grown, Jennifer, from the early 4-player, double round robin to what it's become today.
But two people who are fixtures, of course, are Levon and Nakamura.
True.
Magnus did miss a year, right? But
yes.
He's been in most of them, of course. And he will be back for the 2019 edition as well.
Indeed, absolutely. So those were my memories of the start of the tournament, but this birth and how difficult it was with the calendar and just finessing the calendar. And today, when you think about the calendar and how many events there are, it's really, really nice that the Sinquefield Cup is now a permanent fixture on the calendar.
It is, and now it's like we get precedents. Like the calendar has gotten more and more crowded, but when you have a tournament with the elegance, the conditions, and the posterity of the Sinquefield Cup, it's like people are working around us. But in that very first year, we have to work around everyone else.
Precisely.